So, welcome to video number 20. The more observant of you will have noticed that video number 19 is actually missing. I do have it, it's not edited yet, it's a series of short clips, but when I look at them it adds up to nearly an hour long, so I have to work out how I can cut out some of the rubbish you don't really need to see, or work out how to upload a longer video. It's reasonably entertaining, but anyway, I'll have to try and sort that out. So this one will be shortened in length to try and make it more where's the lens gone on this? I've reversed the camera, so it'll be shorter in length because I'm trying to cut out the like hour-long things. So let's turn the camera around and we'll make a start. So today we're going to fit the oil pressure gauge to my latest addition to the stable, which is, for those who don't know, it's a 2007 CVO Springer Softail, which is like that. So, and the pressure gauge will go on the top of the rear cylinder head. So this involves removing the seat and lifting the petrol tank high enough to get this rear bolt out, because it's going to hit there. Look, so you take that out, put the bracket in there like that, and then put the bolt back. So that's reasonably straightforward on that bit. The pig is going to be getting in there to the oil pressure switch, which I don't know if you can see there, and the takeoff piggybacks off of that, so I've got to get in there somehow. The luck of the draw depends on your particular exhaust system. I have the Vance & Hines, what are they called? I think they're Big Shots, and they cut right across, so you can just about see the little monkey in there. But let's move on first of all to the actual box. I've opened it and it comes with this rather naff plastic pipe. So I've taken the incentive to buy some braiding from a shop in the UK. Okay, so here we are. Look, you can pause that to get the information. And he does parts for racing parts, hence the being based at Silverstone Racetrack. You can buy this. This is stainless steel braiding, which I think will look nicer than the naff plastic hose pipe. So let's just set you up on the tripod here a moment, like that. There we go. And then you can see what you think. I don't know if that's too high or not. Might have to lower that down a bit. There we go. How's that? Now you see, I think something like that will go from, where is it, there, won't it? I think that looks reasonably in keeping. It's nice and shiny, and the finished article looks something like that rather than the plastic pipe, which I'll just quickly get out. And without that it would look like that. Well, you know, I just think that's a bit sort of something and nothing. So I'm going to go for a little bit of bling. So the unboxing, right, out you come. Oh, wrong handle. Out you come. So the unboxing, look, that's a bit of that shrink tube for the end of the stainless steel, which we'll look at later. So there's the fittings which come for the nylon pipe, and there's an olive built in there which crimps on the outside of this pipe to seal it. I'll deal with that bit in a minute. There's instructions, and it comes with this bracket, which I was disappointed to notice. If I can get it out of the bag for you. Disappointed to notice a typical Harley quality product is actually going rusty before it's even come out of the box. So not very impressed with that. I hope other Harley parts are a little bit better. But that will go on there, and then the gauge will sit in there, obviously, and I'll turn it round so it's that way round. Yes, not impressed with that at all. The first one I bought, which I had to take back, had this piece missing completely, so there wasn't enough of the box in the box. The gauge itself is, let's just lean against that to get it open. Hang on a moment, just tweak that. Okay, so there's the gauge. You can see it's oil filled to stop it oscillating about, keeps the needle steady. It's not very big. Some of them, the last one that came didn't have a bubble in it. I'm not sure which is right or wrong. I've often seen gauges like this with bubbles in. I think given the air temperatures in England, you're going to get like freezing weather and plus 30. So there's such a variation of temperatures that a bit of compressible air will probably be good for it. The business end, this is the piggyback. So the oil pressure switch unscrews from the crankcase and then screws in the end there, and then you put one of these T-pieces off to come up to the oil pressure gauge. So the pig is going to be undoing that and putting that in there like that. Now it's possible I may have to undo these heat shield screws. There are about 3 Jubilee clips, so you can just about see one there. And then underneath, let's have a look. Where has it gone? There's one. There's one there. And one at the far end there. And another one further down by the looks. If I undo those 4, I suspect I may be able to pull this heat shield out the way. Just swing it round, swivel it round on that pipe. Which would give me just the exhaust pipe to wriggle round and not this huge heat shield. But I'll try it without first, so I'm going to take that off of camera in a minute while I roll around the floor with it. Tools, it says in the instructions that you need Harley Davidson tool number plonk, and when I googled that, it turns out to be a crow's foot 15/16. Let's get that off, hang on. Just a moment. Right, so it turns out to be 15/16 snap-on. I think it's called a crow's foot spanner. Now this is best used with the universal joint. It's 3/8 drive, so I'll put that back in there. And the idea is that you get in there and do the best you can. So that's why I'm not going to bother filming that. Let me see how I get on, and then we'll start the video up again when I've finished undoing that. Okay, so after about an hour of struggling, I've had to take the exhaust off, which has been an absolute pig, to the degree where the bolts holding it on were so tight that I had to use a torque wrench. And they're only about 3/4 bolts, and I had to use a torque wrench on them in reverse to get the length, to get the leverage to undo them. So what on earth they were thinking of that, I don't know, but it certainly wouldn't have fallen off. Anyway, so the snap-on part recommended by the manual seems to be too delicate, and it's rounding all these edges off. So I'm going to try, I don't know if you can see that, I'm going to try it as a direct pull rather than being slightly on an angle trying to wriggle past the exhaust pipe. While we're here, you can see that the lead connecting to it is a push-on thing a la spark plug, so that's not a problem, we can forget that. But I'm guessing this is so solid because it's been in there for 15 years or something. But anyway, that's where we're up to. So I'm going to have another go and try and get this off, because now I can get a spanner on it square. Okay, so you can see now that having got everything out the way, it was a relatively easy job to get this undone. Once I managed to get a spanner on square, which I used a trusty old-fashioned, it's a British, what they used to call it, a King Dick, which presumably was a make back in the day. That came off quite quickly without too much ado. You get a good fit, and these being old-fashioned, these are a good parallel jaw. Now I notice that looking at the thread, you can see there that it's a tight fit at the end there, but when you come up to here, there's about 1 millimetre play, which means this is a tapered thread. So that's a tapered hole. So when we come to do up the piggyback, you're going to have to be careful, because obviously that's going to be the same thing, because if you strip the crankcase, that's going to end in tears. Now I think by the time that goes in there, which will be something like that, and you get the idea, there's not much room to mess around. So I think it's going to be easier to assemble this in the vise, and then there's enough room there to get that to start to screw in. So I think once I've assembled that into there, I can then screw this into the crankcase. So I think that's the way to go. I've given this a tickle up on the wire wheel. Unfortunately, that may not have been a good idea, because of course I've rubbed off the tide mark, which told me how far to do it up. But we'll put some blue on there as a thread sealer, and just be sensible, because the worst that can happen is it leaks oil, and I have to tighten it up a bit more. So I'll put you on pause while I do that. Right, so I've assembled this in the vise. Not very impressed that this fitting into there, both of which are new, goes in by about 2 threads, and now it's as tight as I dare do it, so I'm going to leave it like that. I've put Loctite on, as you can see, but it's only in by what, 1/8 of an inch, something like that at the most. So not very impressed with that, but it is structurally firm. I guess we'll have to see how it goes. So what I'm going to do now, this one I've done up sensibly tight, because I don't have a spanner to fit it where I can fit a torque wrench. So I'm going to do the same thing in here, because I don't have any way of, I don't have the socketry or anything to go on there. I don't have a 12-sided sockets, I only have 6-sided sockets. Otherwise I could have put it over the end and torqued it up. So what I'm going to do is the same thing again. As I say, this is a threaded, a tapered thread, so it's tight at the end there, look. When you get to this end, there's play in it. So this is a tapered thread. What I'm going to do is I'll put Loctite right down the end. So I'm new to the Loctite. I've always relied on putting the thing together sensibly, but I'll put it all the way around, because we need this as a thread sealant as well as a anti-vibration, although there wasn't any on when I took it off, and you probably don't need it being tapered. But anywho, I don't trust this if it's anything like that fitted. So let's see how that goes. So it just about fits in there, look. Come on, you monkey. I have had it in there, so it does go. There we go. Okay, that's on the way now. And that's hand tight, so we've got about 3/4 of a turn, so I think that will probably lock it off enough. I don't like, yeah, that's tightening up nicely now. I don't like using a long spanner like this, so I'm going to hold it short, and I'm going to stop just there. Now that's not particularly tight, it's tight enough I think it'll stay there as long as it's wanted, and we can put the spark plug wire back on again. He said, just give that a little shove with a screwdriver. Get out of the way. There we go. Okay, so that's all hip and groovy. And now it's a question of making off this end, so I need to have a look and see where we're up to with that. So just bear with me while I go and see what the next instructions are. So we've got that in sitting in there nicely now. To tighten this up, there's an olive in there, which you won't be able to see on here, but there's a small olive, and you basically push the pipe in, and then when you do this up finger tight plus one turn, that olive will crimp onto the pipe and give you your seal. But where I've opted for the cosmetic improvement, you can buy a kit with this already built on, which is probably 10 times better, but I don't have it. You can see this is meant for wiring and such like, so you can put it as thick as you like within its limits, and then stretch it out so it looks nice. You can buy different sizes, but this is the smallest they do. So what I'm going to do is just check up with a calibrated eyeball of how much I actually need to go in there, which is, with the thumbnail, as you can see, is about 1/2 inch. So I will cut this off so that it's 1/2 inch short at both ends. So I'll do that off camera. To cut it, you put masking tape, which is why they've done that for me. You put masking tape on and then cut through the middle of it. But I'll do that in the vise, or at least ways off camera, while I fiddle around with it. Right, so that's now tightened up. The instructions say that the olive must be finger tight plus one complete turn, so that's 6 flats. I threaded the pretty sheath on there, and it's just resting in place. There is heat shrink tube, as you can see, but what I'm going to do now is, after I've had a cup of tea, is I'm going to put the exhaust pipe back on again, because I don't anticipate any problems with the petrol tank removal or the seat or anything. So I'd rather get the pipes back on, because that's the worry, is having sort of big things off of it, and that was a pain in the neck. So that will be the next job, to put that back together. But that doesn't affect, of course, the overall job. Okay, so after much heartache and struggling and faffing, the exhaust pipe is back on. The bracket holes didn't line up by 6mm, so what on earth was going on there I don't know, but these are actually slotted, so by the time I'd found that out and I'd loosened all these off, I've managed to get the whole thing sitting back where it should be. So we're now up to the top half, which I anticipate should be much easier. So the first thing to do is remove the seat and then see how the tank will lift up. I don't think we'll have to take any petrol pipes off or anything. It's only got to raise high enough to a rum, as you know. Okay, so let's have a look at that. So we've got a small Allen key there, and there must be some sort of fixing underneath that, so let's get that loosened up, and we'll see how we get on. Right, I don't have a manual at all yet. It is on order, but I haven't got it yet. So loosening off the small grub screw or Allen screw there, and that one of those. All of these are about 6mm or 1/4 inch long, so they're obviously just to hold the speedo in, whereas this one is yay big and goes through to a bracket on the tank, and that reveals a Torx bolt there which holds the back of the tank down. So I suspect if I slacken off, where are they gone, that one there, and the same on the other side, that should lift the tank enough to get that bolt out. So that's the next thing. Let's see what happens. Right, so I've sprayed a bit of Ford Moondust Silver I happen to have in a paint can into the lid, and spotted it on using a stick onto the rusty parts of the bracket. Boo hiss, Harley Davidson. So that should stop that going getting worse, hopefully. I think that's good enough. Bit disappointed in that, but there we are. The tank is now out the way. I don't like the idea of slackening off half of the rocker box and not the other half, but hey, that's what you have to do. So the next thing is to put the gauge in the bracket. Now, I don't know if you want to see that. It's pretty straightforward. Hang on a minute. Right, so where are we? About on the desk. Yeah, that'll do. No room here, as you can see, because of we are moving in the new year. If you're watching this later on, it's actually October now. The end of February we'll be moving to another house, and where my son moved out, he took the vise and all the bits with him which were his. So I'm making do with what I've got at the moment, and then when I get it set up in the new house, I'll have a man cave properly. So for now we make do. So let's have a look. That goes on there. Then the back plate, which is quite a tight fit over the actual gauge. Now, somewhere here there's a couple of stiff nuts. So one on there, one on there. So it's all fairly straightforward so far. Right, let's find a little tiddly-pom spanner. Slacking that off, that's a little bit too much, so get that till it's about flush. Now, I think we'll do that parallel to the rocker box. So looking at the 6 and 12 o'clock of the dial, I don't think anyone's going to complain about that, give or take. Now it says do the nuts up till they're flush with the end of the studs. Let's have a quick check on that one. I did read somewhere that you're supposed to do those up till they're flush, the nuts up till they're flush. Oh, here we go. Assemble the pressure gauge. Tighten the lock nuts until the studs are flush with the nylon inserts. So I don't want to risk distorting the gauge itself by cranking down on it in case we crack the glass or get an oil leak or something like that, and that's not going anywhere, so I'm happy with that. So the next thing is to put the hose connector on. Tighten female pipe fitting onto the end of the gauge. Hold the square when you're doing it so you don't start stripping it out in the gauge. Right, they don't mention anything about Loctite or anything, they just say tighten it. Presumably it jams onto the end. Can't help feeling a little bit of blue might be worth it, but I think we'll see. They don't mention any Loctite on there, but it is a pressure gauge, so I'm going to I think I'm going to put some on. But you need to keep it away from the inside of everything, so let's come a few threads up. And I'm just going to put one circle like that, so just enough to go all the way round, because I don't want it to go glooping out into the system. Okay, so let's get some spannering going on, which is that and that. What's that? 5/8, a bit less, yeah. Okay, so it's a spanner I've got out somewhere. Would be, wouldn't it? There we go, little monkey. So that's for that, and it's the same size for that, of course. So now I've got to have 2 spanners. Luckily, I like buying shiny things, so we'll support that and tighten that. Right, that's a brass thread, so I'm only going to, holding it fairly short, I'm only going to do that sort of like that and no more, because I don't want to start stripping threads. You can see the Loctite is all the way around, so that should give me a seal. So I'm going to live with that, and we can put this on the head now. So let's go over there. Right, just bear with me while I set the tripod up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, this is designed to have the washer there. I'm not sure whether this should go under or over really. I mean, if nothing else, it acts the same as a washer, I suppose. So let's put that back in there. Right, fit the bracket on the rocker box, reinstall the screws, tighten to 14 to 19 Newton meters. Let's say 17.5. Just double check that. 14 to 19 Newton meters. So 17.5 is like our front room, not much in it. Okay, well that's not very tight. Mind you, there's a lot of leverage there, so I guess that's yeah, I'm going to leave that. It's not as tight as I thought it would be, but that's quite a long spanner, so got to do it under control and not get carried away. Okay, so we're looking good. So let's get that to there. Okay, that's there like that, so I'm going to leave that down, holding the pipe upwards, pushing it in, and then 6 flats. Okay, 1. Oh, that whole thing's turning. Okay, right, we need to I need to start bracing things. The whole thing's turning in the gauge, so we've got to start supporting it. Right. Okay, 1, 2, yeah, I'm going to keep going with that. I didn't check that to see how tight it is. I might just slacken that off. I don't think we've gone far enough yet. So let's just loosen that. Yeah, that's gripping already. Okay, so hand tight. Three, 4, 5, 6. Right, this whole thing is turning in the gauge, so this does need supporting. I'm not worried about that doing up tighter on there. Okay, that's good. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to put that like that and then get some heat on that, because that's heat shrink. And the same the other end. You do get a cable tie and a sticky pad to go on the bottom of the air box, but as you can see I've got a heavy breather, so I may clip that on there or something like that, maybe just to keep it steady rather than leaving it to flap around. I could open the steel braiding and fix it over the top of that. I don't know, I'll see what looks nicest. I'll probably just do that because that keeps that separate for taking it off. So I'll get the heat shrink on there like that, I think. But before we do that, let's go and get the key time, because we all want to see if it actually works. Right, so here we are, we're all back together. Everything's in and it's looking good. The only thing I haven't done yet is heat shrink on the tubes, just to finish those off. I'll do those in a minute, but first of all, of course, like you, I want to see if it actually works. So, ignition on, fingers out the way. Job itself was relatively easy. What took the time was taking all the pipes off and trying to get them back, and trying to get into here to actually do the job. Doing the job itself was not difficult. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. I don't know what all this is going to add up to. I tried to keep it short, but I think it got longer and longer. Anyway, you take care. We'll see you in the next one.